So welcome. Getting stuff done for ADHDers is not easy. And it's probably been hard your whole life because if you're ADHD, you've been ADHD your whole life. And if it's a loved one, then it's those loved ones that you care for and you watch them struggle and you probably struggle too. So I know that getting stuff done is really hard. An acknowledgement to the beautiful Ngunnawal and Ngambri people whose beautiful land and waters it is where I work, live and play, and acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. So who are we? We are the Psych Hive. So I'm part of a little trio, myself, Jade in the middle and Emily on the right of that top photo. We started a private practice here in Canberra where we like to give lots of free and affordable resources to the community. That's me down the bottom there with a slightly different coloured hair. If you're an Instagram person, then we've got our socials there. So at the Psych Hive and at Brianna_Thomas_psych. Instagram is like my love language. So feel free to take a photo of yourself doing this webinar and post it and tag me. I would love that. Let's get started. So I've set a timer for myself. This is my timer. I've also got a timer visual. So I am quite time unaware. So hopefully that will keep us on track. Today, we're going to quickly look at executive functions and the ADHD brain. We don't need heaps of information because that's theory. Today is practical. We are getting stuck into the practicals of how to do this, how to get things done. Before you even try and start, I've got some hacks to make sure your body and brain is in the best place possible to be doing this. Then we're going to talk about where to start. How do you actually choose the task to start with? Then we're going to talk about how to start the task. So you may know what you need to do. That's the where to start. You might not know how to start. So we're going to look at how to start. Then we're going to look at some self-compassion because that's really, really important as ADHDers, having some self-compassion on ourselves because some days just nothing works. It's just true. Like you throw everything at it. You've taken your medication if that's something you do and nothing works. So we need a whole bucket of self-compassion. And then the last thing we're going to do is just review and then look at some resources. So let's kick us off with different types of executive functioning components. So we've got our working memory, which is holding things in mind long enough to be able to use it. Then we've got inhibitory control, which is pausing before you act. I'm not very good at that. I just launched into the webinar and was like, let's go, without checking how to do things. So that was super fun. We've got emotional control. So a lot of people don't actually know that emotional control is part of executive functioning. So ADHDs do really struggle with big feelings and they derail us. We've got task initiation, which is starting the starter motor problem, starting tasks, initiating tasks, and planning and organizing. So making a plan and actually tracking it, sticking to it. Those are two of the things that we're mainly looking at today with getting stuff done. Then we've got self-monitoring. So noticing your own patterns and mistakes as you go. So kind of having a mind above yourself and looking down and monitoring yourself and monitoring your work as you go editing your work. Those are the things that are really difficult within executive functioning. And you might be sitting there going, yep. Welcome to ADHD. Executive functions are also difficult within aspects of autism and aspects of many other neurotypes, mental health conditions, being a human, menopause and perimenopause, all sorts of things affect executive functioning. But today we're particularly talking about the ADHD experience. I want to just cover this very quickly. So the acronyms INCUP and PINCH, you might have heard them before. What they are just quick ways of saying these are things that ADHD that actually get us going, that get us focusing on a task, get us started. It's things like if we're interested, if there's novelty, if there's a challenge, if there's a sense of urgency, like a deadline. I can only do things to a deadline. I don't know about you. Or if there's a real passion there, that's INCUP. Otherwise, PINCH, very similar. Passion and play, if it's fun. Interest, novelty, competition or challenge. We're very competitive humans. And hurry or urgency. So those are the things that get the dopamine in our brain going, yes, I will start this task. I've got the juice for this. I will start it and I will see it through. Those are the things that we find easier to do, those sorts of activities. And so we want to work on weaving and sewing those things into our lives, into our plans. Before you start, I've made my own acronym. It's fess up. So you need to think about the food and water. You need to think about, do I actually need to move my body? And that movement can look like anything that works for you. So some sort of, I call it exercise, but the word exercise has lots of stigma attached to it. Not everyone can access exercise. Then the sensory world, making sure if you need a weighted blanket to be able to function, if you need some white noise to drown out your own buzzy thoughts, or if you need to take noises away, thinking about the sensory world and thinking about whether you need a body double or some extra support. I'm going to go through these one at a time. I'm also going to take a breath because I've been talking a mile a minute and everyone's probably just like, whoa. So we're just going to take a breath and start with food and water. And I'm just going to have a drink of water. I encourage you to do the same thing. Grab your fidgets if you need them. Make sure you're moving your body. So food and water. When was the last time I ate or drank? You know how our interoception isn't that good? And a lot of the time we can't sense how hungry we are, how thirsty we are. We get in hyper-focus mode and that takes us all the way through lunchtime and into the afternoon. You might very well be missing meals or times to drink. So it's really important to be thinking about when was the last time I ate or drank, because our brains function off glucose, and glucose we get from carbs, vegetables, sugars, that sort of thing. And if you have not eaten regularly, your brain, which requires quite a bit of energy to be able to enact the executive functions, they're up here in our frontal lobes and they require quite a bit of juice, your brain just won't be able to do the things. So there's all these studies that talk about, they took two groups of kids and they gave one of them a high GI breakfast and the other group of kids, they gave a low GI breakfast. And the kids who had had a good quality low GI breakfast where the energy lasts consistently, what they found is that those kids could pay attention and remember things all morning. And the kids who'd had a high GI breakfast where the energy spikes and drops, they actually saw them, they could remember things and pay attention for a little while, and then that ability dropped off. So science tells us, guys, I know it really sucks because this is so hard, this skill, but I just want to start off by saying really important. If regular eating is accessible to you, you should be trying to do it. Same with regular water drinking. The next one, exercise. I know it sounds really boring. And most of us probably, unless we're innately motivated to exercise, most of us probably go, oh my God, that's so hard. I can't do it. You need to be thinking, do I need to move first to get wiggles out or to get power in? So wiggles out is getting out the excess energy that your body may be feeling or the excess energy that your brain may be feeling. And power in is the fact that exercise is one of the best non-medication forms of helping our frontal lobes do the executive functioning things. So, I mean, not only as a psychologist, I know it's an excellent mood stabilizer, like it's really good for it. It's actually just as good as an SSRI if you exercise 3 times a week for 30 to 45 minutes, studies say. It's also really good for increasing all the juice in frontal lobes, all the things we need, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, increasing all the things we need in the right areas to be able to do the executive functioning. So, little hack, if you need to get big tasks done, go for a little walk first. Plan it for following your gym session. Do some exercise first and then try and get the big task done. Do you need sensory world changes? Do you need to bring things in, adding in, like I said before, the weighted blanket? Do you need to add in the noise, the white noise, the, what else might you like? The crunchy snacks, the cold drinks. Think about all your senses. What do you need to add in for your ADHD brain and body and system to settle to be able to focus? It's not just getting rid of distractions. It is totally adding things in as well. And we've got something in the Q&A. Lash says, for someone who has chronic pain and traditional exercise, what would be things that you would recommend for the exercising? I'm so glad you asked, Lash. Thank you for asking that. So I'm just going to answer Lash's question. I would say a good old squeeze, and if you're able to shake any of your muscles, so a progressive muscle adaptation could be really, really great because that sends the message to your brain of like, I'm activating and I'm regulating. So if you're able to squeeze and shake your limbs, that's a really good one. Stretching is really great if that's accessible to you. Anything where you can get your heart rate up a little bit, you're working really well with all the systems that do the things. So maybe a really good idea to check in with someone knowledgeable like a GP or an exercise physiologist for yourself to work out what works for you. Thank you for that question. So in the sensory world, what do I need to bring in, to add in, to help me be able to focus? Or what do I need to take away to get the right level of distractions? It's absolutely not about just reducing all distractions. People will say, oh, get rid of all distractions. For ADHDers, that doesn't work. We often need like a bit of a hum in terms of our sensory world. We need a bit of activity, a bit of noise. I love it when people are in the next room clinking away at the dishes or typing away. Like, it really helps my system to focus. So sensory world. And the last one of fess up is support. So do I need a body double? Do I need some co-regulation? Do I need something else from someone to be able to do this? So just not something to think about. All right, we're about to start in the really practical good stuff, which I'm really excited to take you through. We're going to think about natural energy levels. So thinking about explain body double. Oh, I have a whole slide on body double. I'm so sorry. I should have said I'm going to get to explaining body double. If you watch back the recording to this person, I know you have to leave in a little while, but basically body doubling is when there's another person in the vicinity, over Zoom, over the phone. There's another person in the vicinity, in the next room, in the same room, parallel play, working together, working on something else across the room. Just there's another nervous system around, or over Zoom or over the phone. And that acts as co-regulation, accountability, motivation, all those sorts of things. So that's an excellent thing for ADHDers. Is there a list of sensory things that can be added in and taken out? You will be able to access this. I will add some to the notes that I'm going to upload with the recording. So that's a really, really good point, Emily. But I haven't added it in today because I just have too much I wanted to cover. But also talking to someone like an OT would be amazing for that because they're really good with sensory stuff. Okay, back to this, and I'll check the chat in a couple of minutes. I'll check the Q&A. Natural energy levels. Our circadian rhythms is a 24-hour cycle. But within that, our energy changes all the time. They're different for every neurodivergent person, every human. You might be able to function for this long and then you need this much rest. This long and then you need this much rest. So the point is it goes up and down throughout the day. We want to try and work with our natural energy cycles. So a little while ago, I realized that for some strange reason, my brain works really well in the morning. I've never been like that my whole life. And most ADHDers are late onset sleep people. So we stay up late because that's when our brain is clear and working. A lot of us are really creative. So creativity pings at nighttime. The research says that that's when it comes alive. The house is quiet. You can get stuff done. And that means you sleep in the morning. But recently, with the help of medication and doing things at the right times and that sort of thing, I've been waking up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and my brain is so clear. I'm able to really, really get stuff done. So think about in the day, when is your natural energy the best? And it's going to fluctuate. Your capacity is going to fluctuate. So what we need to do is fill up the toolkit with lots and lots of tools, which is hopefully what we're going to start doing today. And if you can't stay for the whole thing, the recording will be shared with you via email and on our website. Our capacity fluctuates and we need all these tools because the dopamine in our brain is going to be, it's quite picky and selective. And sometimes it's like, I really like the apps at the moment. I really like using the electronic apps to keep track of things. And then the next day it might be like, I really like a piece of paper to be able to write all my things down. And the next day it's going to be like, I'm over those strategies. I really like verbal conversations to organize my thoughts. And so I am sure you can sympathize and empathize with this idea that the interest in our strategies goes up and down. And that is so annoying because you'll finally find something that works. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, that is no longer interesting to me. So what we need to do is add things into the toolkit so that we have enough variation that our dopamine goes, things I'm familiar with, I'm going to choose this one. Today I'm going to choose that one. And you've got options. And as you just can move between the options of strategies that help you that day, that week, that month, you also have some self-compassion. So we're going to be going there today as well. So it's just this idea that everything fluctuates. Our motivation fluctuates, our capacity fluctuates, and that's just part of our neurotype. It's just part of who we are. These dopamine levels change, and they're so funny and picky about whether things are going to work that day or not. And we need to have some self-compassion around that. So I'm not going to stay here for very long, but this is one of the things that I've put in the All About Executive Functioning guide that we're creating at the Psych Hive. And you can pre-order it, or it's available in about 2 weeks. It comes out, but it's available to pre-order now. And so things like this are going to say where to start. Do you know what task to start with? Yes or no? And then you go down from there. Do you know how to start it? Yes or no? If you don't know what to start with, you need to start by making an everything list, which we're going to talk about in a second. And you need to think, do I want it presented visually or in words or in a graph? And really work with your brain. So this is just a way of saying, I've deep dived on this, and I'm just giving you guys a little skim off the surface because I don't want to keep you too long. But you can get more by going to our executive functioning guide on our website. So we need to make the everything list. This is when you dump everything in your brain onto a piece of paper, an electronic list, a voice note, another human writing it down for you, some way of getting all of the tasks down, all of them, because otherwise they're open loops in our brain. And the research says it's this really interesting phenomenon where if something is an open loop, it actually gravitates more attention and we think about it more than if it's a closed loop. So once we've closed it, we can kind of put it away and it doesn't bother us anymore. But if it's still open, if you haven't done it, it's going to bug you. And that's really annoying and really rude of it. So what we need to do is create an everything list of all the tasks you need to do. This is the starting point. Then we prioritize. So this is where things start to get really fun. Now, if you don't understand the theory of this matrix that I'm about to talk about, that's fine because it's one of 5 strategies for prioritizing. The first one is the Eisenhower matrix to prioritize. We take our everything list and we put it in these 4 quadrants. We've got urgency, high and low urgency, and that is time pressure. So something like my assignment is due tomorrow, high urgency. Something like I'm just scrolling, low urgency. Then the horizontal axis is importance, and that's importance to you as a person. So the meaning you give that thing, the value it gives you, does it make a difference to your life? Is it really important to you? So a high importance item would be something like if your uni degree is really important to you, if your work is really important to you to do a good job, it's important to do a good job to keep the job, that sort of thing. Your family is probably really important to you. The things that are of high value to you are going to be up that high importance end. And then the things that are of low importance and meaning to you are going to be down the lower end. Let me show you an example of one that I did. And then when you get access to the slides, they're going to be emailed round with extra notes. Then you can go through and read all these little bits and just come to understand it a bit more. But all you really need to know is that it's about urgency and importance. And it's a way of prioritizing all your tasks. So this is the way that I did it. This is made up. All my examples are made up, but close to home, somewhat real. So our top right quadrant, highly urgent and highly important. ADHD brains are going to find this pretty easy to do. They're going to do this first because anything that is urgent to us, the deadline is there, the dopamine goes for it. It also feels important to us. It's of high value to us. We're going to find it easier to start it. So the starter motor is going to go, I can start with these tasks really easily. So things like the assignment that's due tomorrow, the report that's due tomorrow, the exam that's tomorrow. I don't know why I put dog's medication. It's obviously fresh on my mind. Actually, that does remind me I was supposed to call the vet today. Thank you, everyone. So the things that are highly urgent, highly important go in that quadrant, and they're the ones that we're going to find easy to do first. The things that I want you to think about scheduling for later are the highly important to you but low urgency ones. So things like working on a long-term project. The urgency isn't there, the time pressure isn't there. Going to the gym, it might be really important to you, important to your set of values, but the time pressure is not there. It's okay if you go tomorrow, the next day, things like that. Then we've got the delegate section, top left, which is, and I'm sorry about the E being on the wrong line, that's really annoying. I'll fix that before I send it to you. Things like, I put get petrol. I hate getting petrol. It's not important to my set of values. I mean, getting places is, but like I find it so annoying. I was like, not important, low importance. I also hate food shopping. Eating is really important, but food shopping, look, they're probably closer to the line than the end of the graph. But delegating those is possible. This quadrant is possible to go, can I outsource this or find a system for this? And then we've got low importance and low urgency. And this is a point I really wanted to make. When I use this for myself, when my dopamine goes, we're doing an Eisenhower matrix today. And I'm like, all right, sir, yes, we are. The internet will tell you that this quadrant you need to ignore, that we don't do these things. They say things like doom scrolling and downtime, and they even listed special interest deep dives. And I was like, excuse me, how rude. How very rude that special interest deep dives is listed as low importance. Like, I do not agree with that. I think that's a very highly important. It's probably not urgent, but I would say it's highly important. It's something you need to schedule in. These ones down the bottom left, we really need to notice them and just consider, how can I use this to get my momentum going? So one of the strategies we're going to go over a bit later is using momentum. So what I sometimes do is I'm working through these really tough ones in the top right, do first, these big things that are urgent and highly important. Sometimes it's just really hard to keep going because my brain is like, I'm tired, and it's hard to hold sustained attention. And so what do I do? I flip down to the notice and consider ones, bottom left. I do something that brings me a bit of pleasure and is a bit meaningless for a little bit of time. And then that gives me the motivation to keep going back with the other ones. So think about darting round. What have I got the motivation to do in this moment? And can I do something else and then come back to the tricky one? Post-it notes. Really quickly, sometimes I'll show you the next slide because it's got a real life example. I mean, I covered them all up because they had like private things on them, but this is me with actual post-it notes stuck to the window of my study. So I have, the categories are today, tomorrow, this week, this month, later, and done. And so I took my everything list and I went boom, 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 boom. And I was able to delegate everything into those categories. So that's a really fun visual way of taking an everything list and going, how do I make sense of this? How do I know what I need to do today versus tomorrow? Then I would go to the today ones and go prioritize within the today list. Think what's easiest energy-wise, what's hardest energy-wise. Maybe I'll start with something easy and go to something harder once I've got the momentum going. Another similar thing, I'll take you straight to the real life photo. We make a card sort of regulating fun things that are good for our systems and keep us going, and productive hard things that we need to get done. So we list out, say, our everything list for the things that day into the productive hard list. We actually write them out and we've got them on little cards, and I've got some of these from Officeworks. These kinds of cards you can just buy from Officeworks. Otherwise, just on a piece of paper and chop it up. And this way you can order them in the order that makes sense to you. I'm going to start here. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here next. You can move them around. They're physical. They're tangible. You can see them in your eyeballs. If it's not in your eyeballs, it doesn't exist. We know that's true for ADHDers. And this is a really, really fun way of taking your everything list and really breaking it down and making it fun and tangible. And you can touch it and you can move it. And then you can jump over to something on your regulating list when you need a break, and then come back to your productive hard things list. And then a sort of bullet journal. I don't know how actual bullet journals work, and I've tried to research it and it just doesn't make sense to my brain. I'm sure some of you have used a bullet journal before. Awesome for you. Maybe you can have that as one of the tools in your toolbox. This is me. This is a pretend list of things I made. What I've done is I've listed the tasks. So you would take your everything list and list. If you're a list writer, this is for you. And then what I've done is I've put the due date. Is it due today? So day, week, or month. I've gone down and gone day, week, month, whether it's due today, whether it's due in a week, or whether it's due a month or longer. Then this is really important, your energy. I've gone low, medium, high for energy. And within everything that's due today, I highlighted all the today ones so I can see really easily what I have to do today, because remember, your everything list can get pretty long. And then I was able to go, okay, what's the lowest energy ones? And I started with the post letter I made that up, ATP. I mean, I'm sure you can think of a really fun acronym for that. So post a letter, I said that was low energy, whereas checking emails, I said that was medium energy. So start with something low energy and then move into something medium or high energy. And we cover that later, but I just wanted to kind of weave it in here as well. Then another really fun way of prioritizing your tasks, but also making sure you're meeting deadlines, is a visual calendar. So I'm going to show you an example. Here's my example, and I'll go back. Excuse me if this is making you seasick. I put my hard deadlines in solid boxes. I put my soft deadlines, which is you've made it up yourself or someone else has imposed it on you and it's not as hard as the due date. So maybe I want to get a draft done by then, or I want to have emailed so-and-so to get thingos started, or you'd like it to be 50% done, that sort of thing, in dotted boxes. And I used consistent colors. So my brain doesn't do this naturally. I have to think really hard, but if you can be consistent, I mean, I know it's so hard for us to be consistent. It's like super tricky. And I just want to validate that and normalize that there's not a lot of consistency naturally in the ADHD neurotype. If you can find a system where you can be consistent, at least for a little while the dopamine's going, it'll make it so much easier because it streamlines it for you. And then you can just follow the color system rather than having to think of it new each time. So have a look at this. I was thinking of like a year 11 and 12 student at this point. So this is a calendar that I drew up in my bullet journal. You can also type in like August calendar PDF into Google and you'll get heaps of them that you can just print out. November calendar PDF, print it out, do the same thing. So what we've got, have a little look through here. I've put hard due dates in a closed box, soft due dates in a dotted box. And then I've actually gone backwards, worked backwards from the due dates and put in where the person would need to work on that thing. And you can see where we've got competing demands. I've tried to take turns with days or spread out the load. So this is a pretty typical exam assignment period for a college student. Maybe your uni one looks like this, or you have enough things at work that it would look like this. But you can come back to this and have a look at how I do this. But this is really helpful for going, okay, I have 7 things due in this 6-week period. How am I going to manage this? So task juggling. All right, we've just done the where to start. I'm going to have a drink of water. I invite you to play with your fidgets, grab a drink, and we're going to do the how to start in a minute. So these are all our little strategies of how to do the thing. Alrighty, how to start. So I know you all know that they're going to say, break it down, but I want to tell you the science behind this and why it's helpful. And that's that I'm going to explain a bit later about a bit more about the starter motor and start initiation. So if a task is too big, the start initiation is too big. The energy it takes to overcome like the starter bump, too big, you're not going to start it. I think we need to ask ourselves, have I just decided I'm going to do a task, or have I given myself a physical action? So is that an overall task or a physical action? Something like I need to clean the house, that's an overall task. That's not a physical action. You need to break it down to the point that you have a physical action like pick the rubbish up off the bedroom floor. That breaks down the starter initiation energy small enough that you're much more likely to be able to do it. This will be weaving through the next 10 or so slides as we talk about these different strategies. So just keep in mind the break it down until it's small enough that I feel like I can actually do it thing. Here's our body doubling slide. So thank you to that person that asked about this before. Why does body doubling work? Well, co-regulation. So you've got another nervous system present, and that can help to co-regulate your emotions. So it actually keeps you within your window of tolerance, this space that you can actually cope. You haven't flipped up into hyper arousal, the fight or flight, and you haven't dropped down into shutdown or like the dorsal shutdown, depression, tired, bored, all that kind of stuff. You haven't dropped down into that either. So it's co-regulating to have another person present. Then we've got the fact that it adds noise and distraction. I love this because I'm very sensory seeking and I need a lot of noise and distraction to cope. Maybe you need your body double person to be completely silent. That is okay. I'm sure you can arrange that or ask that of somebody or have somebody on Zoom with everyone's mics muted, but you're just present over Zoom. It also adds accountability. So we know the research tells us that externalizing motivation is a really good way for ADHDers to get things done. So the research is relatively new around body doubling. That term doesn't show up a lot, but we do know that externalizing motivation is tried and tested. So this is a way to externalize the motivation where you've got a whole nother person staring at you and going, how's it going? Or if you are a PDAer, which means you have a nervous system that has a persistent drive for autonomy and maybe you don't like demands, you're demand avoidant, maybe having somebody say, how's it going, is infuriating, in which case you can just arrange with them for that not to be the case. You can say, maybe they can just use a light timer. It's now gone orange. They can use a light timer because that's not a demand, or maybe it doesn't feel like a demand or whatever. But you want to tweak it so that the body doubling works for you. And down the bottom, I've got a little box there. The body doubler can be doing the task with you, reading, watching something, sound on or off, cooking, doing their own work, over Zoom or on the phone or in the next room. So there's lots of options for our body doubling. So body doubling can look like lots of things, and try it and see if it works for you. There's also body doubling apps, which I haven't used, so I didn't list them. But if you just Google body doubling apps, you will find things. There's some Discord servers. There's some apps that are just meant for body doubling. So if anybody knows the name of those, chuck them in the Q&A and I will read it out. But yeah, that's a great option too. Okay, using momentum. I want to tell you a little story. So that person on the couch, that would be me, except with dogs and a hot Milo. When I get stuck on the couch, I am stuck on the couch. I cannot move. I go into this shutdown freeze zone where I'm like, don't hit me with tasks. Don't make me think. Don't make me do anything. And I get my weighted blanket. I'm just over my head because the world is so big and hard. It's like this mode my brain goes into where it's like, I just need to not do anything right now. And I have discovered that I can use a little bit of momentum to get started again. And what that might look like is agreeing with myself that in 5 seconds, I'm going to toss the blanket off. That is the start of me doing a task. So I've broken it down into an actionable physical thing. And I've found a really, really good way to start with momentum. Sorry, I'm just going to read out. I'm hoping that's somebody. This is what I was thinking. So a paid body doubling app is Dubbii, I think is how you say it, Dubbii. If you think body doubling is going to work for you, be careful of the ADHD tax. Don't just pay for it right now because I know that's what you want to do. Maybe think about whether that will work for you and write it down somewhere so that you can come back to it. But that's really great. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so using momentum is about starting with something so small and so imperfect. It is not the task itself. It doesn't even have to feel like you're getting close to the task, but it is a way of saying I'm starting, I am moving, I'm getting towards the task, and I'm building momentum so I can fling myself into the hard stuff. So this is a really, really, really good way of getting to the hard stuff a sort of roundabout way, which is very us, isn't it? Very tangential, very, you have to kind of come side door entry. Motivation. I think a lot of people wait for motivation to be able to do things. But the truth is, and I know you'll be able to relate to this, motivation does not just come for ADHDers. If you're sitting around waiting for the motivation to do your tax, you are going to be waiting for a while. And you're probably going to be waiting until someone is knocking at your door with a form for you to fill out, or there's a deadline, or someone's calling you, or whatever. Like, the deadline is like there, because that's the urgency that we need to be able to do these things. Motivation follows action though. So if you're able to create some action towards that task, then the motivation to do it will build and follow. I promise. I know that feels really gross, because you have to do things when you don't feel like them. But if you're able to get yourself acting towards, then the motivation will follow. And maybe even a little bit of looking after your mentals here and saying to yourself, like, oh, I'm waiting to feel motivated again. I'm doing that thing again. Like, I'm avoiding. I'm putting things off again. I'm waiting for that motivation to hit me. So notice what's happening in your mind and name it. That's a really, really good strategy for just bringing it to light. Starting small. I thought this picture was very cute, so that's the one I chose. I want you to shrink the task until starting requires almost no activation energy at all. So shrink it, shrink it, shrink it. It's kind of like, it's another way to say break it down. So this is kind of that idea resurfacing. You're not trying to trick yourself though. A task that feels achievable actually gets started, and a task that feels enormous doesn't. So if your task is do your tax, my friend, you are not going to do your tax. You need to think the task is open laptop and locate document. That's the Tuesday, Wednesday task, whatever. You need to start so small and really break it down in a way that actually works for your brain and your starter motor. So actually setting a little small goal for that day, or for that energy session, for that post-walk moment where you've got a little bit more juice in your brain. Starting really small is the way to go. I know that we're very all or nothing. Like, we're very much like, I want to do everything or I will not start. I want to complete the task or I refuse to begin it. If you relate to that, send me a telepathic vibe. Yes, I'm receiving that. So yes, starting small is so important. Okay, rewards for ADHDers. I want to talk to you about how to do rewards in a way that actually works for your brain. Somebody says, have you or would you recommend using AI to help you break down tasks when you're not even sure how to break it down yourself? 100% I would. If you're someone who's comfortable with AI, not everybody is, but if you're somebody who's comfortable with AI, I have a whole slide on tech and AI in a little bit, and I was going to talk about that, but I'll weave it in here. So you could absolutely say to something like Goblin Tools, everyone write down Goblin Tools. It's an amazing app. If you're comfortable with AI, this would be perfect for you. It's this little green monster, and you can put in the task that you need to do, and it breaks it down into steps for you. So when you don't have the executive functioning power to break it down yourself, outsource it. Ask somebody, how would you break this down? And then the more you do it, the more you learn how to do it. Like, it doesn't come naturally, but we can learn it. And you can learn that from AI too. So yes, absolutely. Great question. You're very welcome. Okay. I want to go backwards. Okay. Let's talk about rewards. So how many of us as kids, our parents use rewards? Maybe you're a parent who uses rewards now. That's okay. But I want to say, if you've got ADHD kids, you actually might want to think a slightly different route. If you're a teacher that uses rewards, think a slightly different route. The thing is, delay aversion, a genuine, measurable preference for a smaller reward now over a bigger reward later. ADHDers have more delay aversion than our non-ADHD counterparts. So we have within us a genuine, measurable preference for a smaller reward now over a bigger reward later. So if you said to me, do your tax and you can go on a holiday, I'd be like, heck yes, that sounds exciting, but I don't know that it would actually help me start the task or keep my mind on the task. If you said to me, and the reason I put down killer pythons down the bottom is because they are my absolute favorite lolly in the entire world, and that was to remind me to talk about this. If you said to me, here's a killer python now, That would give me a bit of sugar. It would give me a dopamine hit. Let's find that document on your computer and you can have another kill Python. I'd be like, heck yes. So not only would I have the little boost from the initial taster of the reward, but I would be looking forward to something that's a lot closer than that holiday at the end, which, although that would feel amazing, it actually doesn't help me start the task. So break the rewards down too. We've really got to be breaking everything down. So make rewards small, frequent, and immediate. I don't like this for myself, but it was suggested to me, so I'm going to put it out there. Try this thing called temptation bundling, which is when you take something you love, like a really thrilling podcast or a really great audiobook, or wearing your favorite jumpsuit, I don't know. Take something you love and pair it with the hard thing. So the advice given to me was that you can only do this thing when you are doing the hard thing. Like you can only listen to that suspenseful podcast when you're doing the hard thing. It might work for you. I feel like I would just want to do it anytime because I don't have that kind of impulse control. But maybe that would work for you. And somebody says, where do we get one of those cube timers you have? It's TimeCube, TimeQube. I have a feeling the company's shut down, but if you just Google like Time Light Cube, you might find one. I do think the company that made this has closed down, but there are others out there. And yes, it's a good one. So coming back to this, break the reward down and temptation bundling. You can bundle something you love. Let's change it. Let's make it like dopamine bundling, where you bundle something that gives you dopamine with something that you find hard doing. So I would bundle RuPaul's Drag Race or Meghan Trainor with writing my ADHD reports for my clients or something like that. Like I find it really, really hard to do that and sit and focus, but I can bundle something excellent that gives me a bit of dopamine in the background. So again, it's like giving you the reward as you go, which is much better than saying you can watch this at the end, because that just doesn't work for ADHD brains and we should stop imposing it on our kids. Okay. The last one for rewards is use a natural kick of dopamine by making progress visible. So you could have a tick sheet, you could have a bar graph, you could have a thermometer where you like color in how you're going. I've definitely done this before. I should have uploaded a photo of the times I've done it. I was saving and I find saving so hard. And I made myself like a visual thermometer that I was coloring in, like you see them do in charities and fundraisers and stuff. I'm working on a PhD at the moment and I counted down the hours that I wanted to spend on it until my next supervision and like crossed it off each day as I went. So there's actually a little bit of natural dopamine that you get in doing that. And so if you can pair that with the task, you're going to get that natural little bit of dopamine. As soon as you do a little bit, you can cross it off. The other thing which I love is, I haven't put it on here, but rather than a to-do list, a to-done list. So I don't know if you've done this before, but writing down what you've actually done in a day. I won't show you the actual example, but I have many tools in my toolkit and I swap each day because every day is different. I have an everything list somewhere. Like sometimes it changes mediums. At the moment it's in Notion, which is an app I'm going to talk about. But I have this bullet journal, lots of colors, lots of scribbles and thoughts and things. And the bullet journal goes with me everywhere. It lives in my bag and then I forget it exists and then I find it again. I'm not like really good at remembering it. So the to-done list is you write down what you've done as you're going. So I've got my to-do list over here, whether it's the Eisenhower matrix or it's the card sort or it's the post-it notes on the wall or it's you've got a calendar, whatever your to-do list looks like, or it's in an app, or you've used AI to break it down for you, whatever it looks like, you've got your to-do list. And then at the same time, you're writing down your to-done list, because I know you are going to think of things to do as you go. Oh my gosh, that thing needs to be screwed into the wall. Oh my goodness, that thing needs to be folded. I go over to do that and I trip over something and I need to fix it. And then I realize that the thing's not plugged into the wall. And then I realize that I need to get an electric cord from Bunnings, and you know what it's like. So writing it down as you go kind of helps you realize, one, what you're doing as you do it, and it keeps you on task, at least for that thing, because you're writing down, I'm doing this and it's done now. And it kind of orients you to reality rather than getting sucked into a wormhole, which we're very good at doing. So it orients us to that moment, and it also gives us something to celebrate at the end when you've only ticked off 3 things on your to-do list, but you've got 18 things written down on your to-done list. Highly recommend. So yeah, with rewards, break them down. Do not be afraid of giving yourself a little teaser of the reward to start with to actually get that dopamine kicked in. So I know you've probably heard of the just 2 minutes or the just 5 minutes, and there's it's not. I didn't take it from research. I took it from I can't remember their name, a person that publicized this idea of just do 2 minutes. It'll get you going. But I want to talk about the fact that you have full permission to stop after 5 minutes. You're not trying to trick yourself, especially again, if you have that demand avoidance thing where you don't like being told what to do or having the demands placed on you. This is not trickery. I'm not trying to get you to keep going after this. You might keep going because we're using momentum, and because of that theory where if it's an open loop, it pulls on you harder than a closed loop. So it will be an open loop after 5 minutes. You are in the middle of it, so it's going to pull on you and you're going to want to keep going. And that's great. So work on something for 5 minutes. That also means you have to think of something that's small enough to fit in 5 minutes, which means you've broken it down. You've started small. We're not trying to trick ourselves. You may choose to keep going due to momentum, and that's a bonus. And I really want you to celebrate whatever you get done in that time, even if it is just 5 minutes and then you go back to couch, weighted blanket, dog Miloing, like I might. You are still getting something started, and that's great. Chuck it on your to-done list and you can come back to it later when the dopamine flows there. But most of the time you will keep going. I kind of guarantee it, but yeah, not trying to trick yourself. Okay, building yourself an external brain. The idea is you have a home base with your everything list. I'm just quickly checking the Q&A. Kids' morning routines, how to incorporate them into kids' morning routines. Such a good question. I might actually come back to that at the end if we've got time. And if we don't, we will make some resources for that exact thing. So yes, and I will keep thinking about that as we talk. So have a home base for your everything list, whether it's Notion, whether it's Todoist, whether it's Asana. These are all apps that I'm going to talk about in a minute, whether it's a bullet journal, whether it is an Eisenhower matrix that just holds everything and you move it around, a card sort, have the Notes app in your phone. You need a home base for your everything list, like the mothership that holds all of the things that you have to do. You need to externalize it. So you cannot have all these things living in your head. The idea of holding onto things and remembering them is a bit of a joke for ADHDers. So our brains are not designed to hold things for long periods of time while we're trying to utilize them. That's our working memory, and that's part of executive functioning, and it's often not that strong. So your brain's not designed to hold on to things, but it is very good at processing things once you've put them in an external brain, external system. So have your everything list in a home base somewhere. Then use external tools like your Goblin tools, your AI app, like another person telling you, oh, I would start there, like a visual instructions list that you've pasted next to your bed. Use external tools to help support you. Do not hold the open loops inside your brain. Streamlining things into systems wherever you can. So that's where I was saying before, we really struggle with consistency. But if you can streamline things into systems, they become habits. And for as long as the dopamine is willing to hang out there, you can hang out there and it's a bit easier. So your external brain might look like a home base on your Notes app in your phone with a number of different strategies that you go to each day to work out what you need to do that day. And then you use the different strategies to help you start and move through your task. It might look like the body doubling external to you. It might look like an AI tool that helps you break things down, but like definitely externalize it. And if you can systemize it, like where you try and come back to that same home base each time and say, okay, what are my options? Where's my dopamine leading me today within that toolkit? Where's it leading me? What am I interested in? Oh, I'm a bit interested in writing on paper today. I just feel like having it physical. So go to some paper and go from there. So we're really trying to externalize that. Okay, I love this. I'm going to have a drink of water and then we're going to talk about the tendril theory, which is just gorgeous. Okay, so tendril theory was coined by Erin Human, who has some drawings and stuff online. You can just Google Erin Human tendril theory and it'll come up. It'll be the first thing. I think their website is called E is for Erin. But it's this idea. I'll read through this for you. It's just gorgeous. It's this idea that when I'm focused on something, my mind sends out a million tendrils of thoughts. They expand into all of the thoughts and feelings. When I need to switch tasks, I must retract all of the tendrils of my mind, and this takes time. So I just want to point out that point there. It takes time to retract the tendrils from the task back into your head so that you can switch tasks. So it's really hard for ADHDers to switch tasks. It's also, I'm also autistic. It's a very autistic thing because of our monotropic interests. But ADHDers find as well within executive functioning difficulties that your tendrils go out and it's really hard to get them back. Or you can think of it like octopus arms. 8 of your octopus arms are out there doing things in the task, like fingers in the pie, and it's really hard to pull them out. So eventually I can shift to the new task, but when I am interrupted or must switch abruptly, it feels like all of the tendrils are being ripped out. That's why I don't react well. Please give me time to switch tasks when I am ready. So relatable. The research says that the switch cost is higher for ADHDers than non-ADHDers, especially between dissimilar tasks. So what I would encourage you to do when you're doing your card sort, when you're doing your post-it notes, when you're writing things down on your list, however it looks for you that day, because that's where your dopamine is leading, I would say try and clump a few similar tasks together. If you're using AI, give it that prompt as well. Clump a few similar tasks together for me. We want to clump our similar tasks so switching between them is a little easier. It might also be really fun for your dopamine to jump between similar tasks, and that'll give you a bit of a hit as you're moving between them because of the newness. Newness is really good for ADHDs. It gives us that little dopamine hit. The newness of the new task, but it doesn't have that switch cost. So you might clump folding clothes and sorting something on your bedside table because they're like proximal in distance and they feel similar to you, sort of sorting and folding. You might clump similar admin tasks. You might clump similar like email tasks. I don't know what it is for you, but if you can think, what is similar to this? Maybe I can do that next because it'll be easier for me to switch into. It won't have the switch cost. So with switching, consider the following things. And I'm just going to, my time cube has gone red because it's almost the end of 60 minutes and I'm going to just set it to 15. And off we go now. It's green again. Very cute. So consider the following things. Buffer time. So actually build in buffer time between tasks so that you can pull your tendrils out and switch between tasks, put them into the next thing. And you haven't just gone, oh yeah, it'll take me 5 minutes to do that, 5 minutes to do that, 5 minutes to do that. No, it's a 7-minute switch time between this and that. It's a 10-minute switch time between this and that. I need to get myself a Milo and some killer pythons and then go into that. So it actually will take time to kind of switch between. So build in buffer time where you sort of just getting your nervous system used to the new thing. Transition rituals, maybe this will work for you where when you're switching between tasks, you always play some music or you always get your fidgets or you do something else that feels like a ritual for you. And that's a lovely way for you and your nervous system to go, I am switching tasks. Maybe you can sing. Singing is really good for your nervous system. Whatever you can find that is can be a bit of a ritual for you can be really great. And then warning countdowns. I like my time cube and my time timer that I've got here because they will give you a warning without saying anything or beeping. So a warning countdown that might look like a flashing light, or maybe you don't mind the alarm going off 5 minutes before you have to finish, or someone telling you 5 more minutes, or whatever it is, can be really helpful. And then obviously grouping similar tasks together to reduce the cost of switching. So think about your poor little nervous system switching between tasks and give yourself a bit of a buffer there. Okay, we need to talk about time agnosia. Formerly, a lot of people called it time blindness, but this isn't very respectful to the blind community. So agnosia or agnosia, if you're super Aussie, agnosia, make it visual in your eyeballs. So for non-ADHDers, they don't have this problem. They can kind of think of things that they don't see like directly in front of them. Like they don't have the object permanence issue. It's wild to me. But for us ADHDers, like we have this issue with object permanence where if it's not permanently an object in our eyes, it doesn't exist. So it's not permanent if it's not something you can see. So make it visual and in your eyeballs by getting a visual clock or using a color thing or whatever it is to make the time visual for you. You can also make time visual for you by breaking the tasks down with pictures. If that's something for you, use Canva and make yourself a morning schedule. I know that you might think that's something that kids need. It is something that kids need. It can also be something that teen and adult ADHDers need, a visual list of things that you need to do before you leave the house or things that must be in your bag before you get in the car or whatever it is. So break down time with those pictures. You can test yourself. So time, how long it takes to get from door to door, it might surprise you. It's actually not just the 12 minutes that Google Maps says it takes. It takes time to walk to the car. It takes time to find a park. It takes time to get in the building, like whatever it is. It takes time to like waiting for the bus. It's not just the 12-minute bus ride. Our time agnosia will trick you and tell you that things take usually much less time than they actually do, which is why we're often late. If you have the autism piece as well, or you're quite anxious, then you might overcompensate and flip the other way. We're pretty good at finding strategies. So you might say, I have to be exactly on time because I'm awkward if I'm early or late. And then that's really anxiety inducing. Or you might say, I have to be really early because I don't want to be late. So there's many strategies we come up with, but try and make it visual and test yourself and also ask somebody, how long would this take you? How long would it take you to get from here to here? Is my guess of 15 minutes a reasonable amount of time? Another thing is for a day, a fun experiment is have an hourly alarm and check each hour, kind of think, did I think an hour was going to pass there? Or did that surprise me? The other thing is when I was researching this, it said the best advice is to take the amount of time that you think it's going to take and just double it as a standing rule. Double the amount of time you think something's going to take you. Okay, so our hyperfocus, some people say this is the superpower part of ADHD. I don't love the word superpower because it can really minimize the disability side of things. But say what you want, hyperfocus can be lovely. It is a lovely flow state. The hyperfocus is when you get really deep into the task that you're doing and time disappears and you find yourself doing it for hours and hours and you don't eat, you don't go to the toilet, you realize that all of a sudden it's gotten dark and the lights in the house haven't been switched on yet and you're working in the dark and whatever it is. Flow is a lovely mindful state to be in and it gets things done. Unfortunately, it's unpredictable and we can't plan for it. So, it is a risk factor for that boom and bust that ADHDers go through. All, nothing. We can't do anything because we're out of capacity and burnout. So I would say enjoy your hyperfocus. You can't plan for hyperfocus. So don't planned that you're going to hyperfocus on something, if you've got a deadline, that's when you need to actually use strategies to break the tasks down, make it visual, all the things we've just been talking about, using momentum, having a body double, all that stuff. And you can use external cues to monitor your time while you're doing it. So the Pomodoro app is a really good one. Actually, I didn't list that on my apps and IT one, which I'm going to get to in a second. But Pomodoro is this idea that originally you work for 25, rest for 5, work for 25, rest for 5. You can change those amounts of times, but I would say it's a good way of safeguarding against getting in too much hyperfocus. Like I recently, or maybe like about a year ago, I started an assessment report where I was writing someone's autism and ADHD report. 15 hours later, I looked up and I was still going. At like 15 hours, I started early in the morning and the day just went boom. And that was not good because that borrowed all the serotonin from my next few days. So I had the worst time trying to function the next couple of days, and I wouldn't do it again. I would not highly recommend. So really thinking, yes, hyperfocus is beautiful and it feels really good and it gets things done. But we sometimes do, if you're prone to that, you need to safeguard against it because it can, like it borrows all the serotonin from the future and it can really boom and bust your cycle. Okay, moving on. One of the things I want to briefly talk about is how you design your space. So how to get things done? You need to design things so that you have them where you can see them. If you want to play the guitar, you need to leave your guitar out on the stand so that you can see it and get it, and you have removed the number of steps to playing the guitar. If you want to do your assignment, you need the things visible and somewhere you can see them. They remind you they exist and you've removed the number of steps. So I will often say to people, I can't do that. It's too many steps. I don't know if you can relate to that, but if something feels like it's too many steps, it's just not achievable. It feels too big, even though, yes, I am trying to just do one at a time and, you can break it down, but if it's too many steps, it's just too hard. So break down the amount of steps by having things where you can see them, have them visible. Also, leave trails or evidence for yourself. I've kind of discovered this for my brain. If I close a document, I don't ever remember that it existed ever again, unless I leave evidence somewhere. So I need to write it on a list somewhere. I need to leave it open and down the bottom of the computer. There's a slightly higher chance I'll find it. Leave the tab open. That's that joke about us ADHDers having 99 tabs open, not only in our brains, but also on our computers. So leave evidence for yourself of what you were doing, especially before you finish a task. Leave a clue to make it easier to pick up the thread again. So if you're working on an assignment or a report or you're in your emails, you could send yourself an email of where you're up to for the next day. You could highlight the paragraph you're up to and write yourself a little note. I was just doing this. Leave clues for yourself of where you are and what you're doing. That's an environmental design thing so that you can make it easier to get back into it next time. So have things where you can see them and leave yourself clues. Think out loud. I'll just say very quickly, our brains aren't great at having a clear kind of monologue thought that breaks through all the noise and that we can make sense of. So if you think out loud, it's a really lovely way of holding clear lines of thought. So it helps you remember what you're doing. Like you walk into the kitchen, you're going, I'm walking to the kitchen to get milk. Walking to the kitchen to get milk. Milk, milk, milk. Walking to the kitchen to get milk. Oh, I'm at the fridge. Milk, milk, milk. I know you're going to get distracted when you open the fridge. Milk. Open the fridge. You've got your milk. Rather than getting distracted by everything along the way. So it's a way of remembering things, but it's also a way of being able to think really clearly. Don't be afraid to make noise. So think out loud. Here's my apps and technology page. These are going to change with probably by the time, if anybody's watching this in a year, in 2027, these might all have disappeared by then. Maybe our smartwatches will be embedded in our arms in chips. I have no idea. But I would say before you dive into any of these things, watch out for the ADHD tax. I do not want you to download every single one of them and sign up for the subscription. And then in a week, you forget you signed up for it and you get billed $100 billion for those subscriptions. No deal. So try one or two at a time. let yourself learn all about it and actually give it a good go. When you get over it, because you will, we know you will, can it be something you come back to? So it's a tool in the toolkit. Can you leave a piece of evidence in your home base list where you've got everything of apps that you've used in the past? Can it hold your everything list? I know I said I was using Notion, which is that bottom one. It's like it has AI as part of it, but if you're not an AI fan, there's plenty of functions where you can build databases for yourself. It's really easy once you get the hang of it. It's pretty and colorful, and you can link things to things, and it's a really great way of holding an everything list and then making smaller lists from that. I've used Todoist before. I've used Asana before. They're both like list-making organizational apps. Notebook LM. Oh, by the way, I'm going from the bottom and going up. Classic. Notebook LM is an AI-powered thing where it holds lots of resources that you give it and then helps you make sense of things. So you could use it to hold your lists and documents and that sort of thing, and then ask it questions about what's going on, or as it gets to know you, say, I'm stuck and I can't think of what to do next, and it'll help you. Trello is a list-making thing, but it's pretty on boards. And then these other ones, I haven't used Sana AI, FocusMate, or TickTick, but I have heard that they're quite good for focusing, organizing, and keeping on track with time. Goblin Tools is the one that I mentioned earlier. It's a couple of dollars. Highly recommend. Pay for that one, definitely. It's an AI-powered tool for specifically built for neurodivergent people. It's got this fun thing where you put in a couple of ingredients from your fridge and it tells you all the options of what you could make with it. It's brilliant, but it can break things down for you. It can also help you understand social things, like you put in a text message, it can tell you what the tone could mean. It's very clever. Using technology like smart watches, wearing a smartwatch has actually changed the game for me. So if you are like on the edge about wearing a smartwatch, highly recommend. Think about whether you want the notifications popping up all the time, because you will see it and then forget about it, but definitely highly recommend for keeping on time. And then we've got Timo, which is the one. No, that's not what somebody recommended before, but that is another good one that you could look into. Then just the Notes app and the Reminders app on your normal phone are also excellent. So you don't need to spend money to make this work, but do think about using apps and technology. Don't be afraid of asking questions like, how do I break this task down? Where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. This is where I'm at. What do I do? Big feelings, task avoidance. So we do get big feelings, and you actually need to soothe and regulate first. If you don't, then your body will do it later for you, and it won't be healthy and safe and fun. So, you'll be melting down or shutting down. So regulate yourself while you've got the spoons to do so. And the other thing, I'm going to go into regulation just for 20 seconds in a moment, but acknowledging avoidance is really important. Name it. I notice I am avoiding this task. Oh, there's me avoiding again. Turn towards it if you can, but just naming it is a really good strategy to start less avoidance, because you're not avoiding the avoiding. You're acknowledging the avoiding, and that'll start to break the cycle. Regulating. Pause. Stop what you're doing if you can catch yourself. Name that a big feeling has shown up. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, nice and slowly. And then redirect. Do something you love. Listen to music. Notice colors in the room. Feel the textures nearby. Eat something while noticing your senses. All those kinds of beautiful things. So that's just a really simple way of regulating your emotions. And then we've got meeting your sensory needs and meeting your body-based needs are also really great ways to regulate your emotions. Last kind of bit of goodness before we just wrap up, self-compassion. Some days, none of this is going to work. And that's not a personal failure. It's just what having a brain with executive functioning differences looks like. So I want you to think, what are the messages you've internalized over the years? You're not lazy. You're not bad. You're not incapable. You're not stupid. Maybe you have internalized those messages, but your brain actually just works differently and you haven't had the tools. And likely you hold neuronormative expectations for yourself. Things like, I should be able to make a list. I should be able to follow a recipe. I should be able to do this because other people can, but your brain works differently, and that's okay. So self-compassion looks like this. Being kind to yourself instead of judgmental. So actually using kind words, talking to yourself like you're talking to a friend or a child. Remembering you're not the only one who struggles. So like instead of isolation, you've got common humanity. So I'm not alone in this. All these ADHDers that are here today are experiencing the same thing. And being mindful. So actually noticing all the things. Every time I said notice this, notice that, notice the avoidance, notice the big feelings, that's mindfulness. So notice what's going on for you. That's a lovely way of being self-compassionate. Okay, quick review. We have different brains and we need different tools. Fess up. So if you remember, that stands for food and water, exercise, or any kind of movement you can get, sensory and support. We talked about where to start. So I gave you 5 different ways of finding places to start. And then we talked about how to start. So I gave you about 10 different ways to help support your starting. Briefly talked about self-compassion, but it's super important. As I've mentioned, the dopamine chooses where it wants to go. And it's really important to just be really gentle with yourself as it goes. No, I'm not going to use that anymore. That strategy that you worked really hard on, I don't want anything to do with it. It's hard, but it's the way our brains work. Okay, resources, and then we'll have a quick time for questions. You can hang around for questions or you can go get your dinner if you need to. I just want to say we're actually running a bit of a competition. We've got 2 of these like Officeworks study packs. It doesn't have to be study. It's just to help you get stuff done. So it's got all those things down the bottom. We've got 2 of those to give away for anybody that pre-orders the All About Executive Functions book. So the book is available. It'll be made available in 2 weeks, but for now you can pre-order it on our website, which is that link there. So the psychhive.com/shop. If that link doesn't work for you clicking, just Google the Psych Hive and go to the shop. So it's only $25 and it's a way of, it'll be all this stuff plus more because it covers all the different areas of executive functioning. So that's a resource that you can use. You can also use professional supports like ADHD coaches, psychs, OTs who have an interest in this topic. Podcasts. My own podcast is ADHD IRL, otherwise the Neurodivergent Women's Podcast, Neurodivergent Insights, your local ADHD groups and Facebook page. And I'm just going to check the Q&A chat. I believe there was something there. Oh, that's so nice. Someone said some really nice things. That is so lovely. After my very, very wonky start, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And then are there any questions? Please throw questions at me. I'm very happy to hang around for 5 or 10 minutes and answer questions. If you need to go, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Good luck. Look out for our executive functioning book. It really will be very helpful. And good luck on the journey. But please, I'll give everyone a minute to just chuck any questions they have in the question box. And you can head off when you need to. What are some ways we can practice self-compassion beyond how we speak to ourselves mentally? Are there ways to do it physically or socially that you can think of? What a beautiful question. You're really making me think. So, absolutely. My favorite physical self-compassion is, I'm going to zoom out so that you can see me, hand on heart. When you press your hand to your chest like this, it actually feels like you are getting a hug. If you're with me, if you're still with me, you're still here, pop your hand on your heart, press in a little bit of pressure. The science says that it feels like you're getting a hug. So I think that's my favorite way of showing myself self-compassion physically. Otherwise, very soft touch. You might need to give yourself some proprioceptive input. You might need to squeeze up and down your arms to remind your body where your arms are and that you have arms if you're someone who kind of checks out and disconnects. It's a good way of regulating, but even doing that gently and lovingly is a really lovely physical way of showing self-compassion. And social self-compassion, what a lovely idea. How could you do that? I wonder if it's something you cultivate in your friends and in your workplace, having a culture of self-compassion is probably the best way to do that, where you give it to others and they deliver it back to you. I can't think of anything else on the spot, but I think definitely the hand on heart physical is beautiful. Good luck with finding self-compassion in what you do. Okay. This question says, how do you tell the difference between needing more structure and needing more rest when your brain just won't engage with a task? Oh my goodness, Emily, what a brilliant question. Okay, let's think this through. How do you tell the difference between needing more structure and needing more rest when your brain won't engage? Have I eaten? Have I drunk water? How much sleep did I get? how urgent is this task? Is it like right up the corner of the Eisenhower matrix? Is it like, super, super, super urgent and I really want to push through and then I can rest afterwards? Is it going to be damaging for me not to rest? So I know especially if you've got kiddos or a work that is very demanding, like there's just tasks all the time being thrown at you and you probably feel like you can never rest. So I would say prioritize the rest wherever you can. And maybe you need to do practical rest where even though you don't feel like it, you say every day at this o'clock, it's something restful. I think, rest is really important if you're not getting enough. I don't know how to answer the question in terms of telling the difference other than saying, what have you had recently? Like, what have you filled your tank with? How are those barometers going in terms of the food and the exercise and stuff? How is your rest barometer? Is it up the end of I'm doing okay, I've got a full cup? Or is it right down the bottom? How does that compete with the urgency of the task? So I think you just need to weigh those things up. I'm currently burnt out and finding it very hard to start absolutely anything. Yeah, totally. What might be one small thing you can do to start again? Break them down so small, like unbelievably small. Like maybe even write yourself a list of things that you're going to do where you just do 3 things at a time, 3 things a day, I don't know. And they're so small that you can absolutely win. Like maybe it's like feet on the floor, hand on heart, and have a drink. And that's all you have to do for that little period of time. Or, you want to give yourself with burnout, you want to give yourself an experience of succeeding again, because everything feels so overwhelming, and just so much self-compassion, like go so gently. But yes, structure things so that you can actually win at the task. So small, so manageable. That would be, I think, my best advice. But that actually makes me think I'm going to write something down for myself, which is to add a burnout section into our executive functioning book. I think that would be really helpful. So thank you for that prompt. Okay. And yes, bump on the morning routines for kids if you have time. I'll get to that in a moment. What would you suggest for staying on task when there is another much more appealing task? Oh my goodness. Like, are you watching me all the time? Like, this is something I experience constantly. What would you suggest? I just need to read again. Staying on task when there is another much more appealing task. Okay, let's have a think. So this would be like trying to do something on that matrix that is important or urgent, but something else has got the dopamine flowing. Can you use the other thing as a reward? Can you do a little bit, set a timer and come back to this? And then, do it in increments, that sort of thing. That would be really interesting if you could do that. Can you use the more appealing task as a reward, broken down and delivered to you in little slices? Staying on task when there's another much more appealing task. Load yourself up with strategies. Have a body double. If you take medication, make sure the medication is in your system. Make sure the distractions are right. Your sensory world is right. You've got your weighted blanket if you need it. You've got your crunchy food. Like, I think just load up on every strategy that you can think of to really support your dopamine. Use exercise first. So go for a walk or a run first, then throw yourself through momentum, through tasks into the difficult task. So I would say just like load up on strategies and throw everything at it. Break it down small enough that those things seem more manageable because it creates a sense of being more appealing. But yeah, I want to acknowledge how hard that is. The appealing task. Oh my goodness. And then this will be the last question for the night, unless something else comes through and I can't help myself. Morning routines. Oh, yep, no worries. We will get to that in a moment. Morning routines. So the morning routine question was about can you just remind me, question asker of the morning routines questions. Maybe I'll go to the next one and then come back to that. Can you remind me of what the question is and what you're specifically asking? Okay, parent asking for a teen. For a teen who wants to do things that have been asked, example, cook dinner, but they tend to do a small part, but then has a runaway moment, avoidance, going to the toilet and staying away from hands. Were you watching me as a teenager? Is that what's happened? But not meaning to not do the task. Totally. So the staying power to stay with tasks is really, really hard. We don't have the staying juice to stay with hard things. So I would say scaffold it for them visually. Can you put the steps on like a visual thing? Scaffold it for them visually. Do it like a parent check-in that doesn't feel too checky-innery every like 10 minutes. How are you going? What do you need support with? Can I just sit by and body double you? I know that's quite onerous and taxing for you as parent, but it's a lovely way of being around a teen. Like teens actually need more supervision than our younger kids do in some ways because of this kind of thing. So make it visual, body double, talk to them about their preferences. Like after the task has not gone well, not in the moment because emotions are high and they're probably feeling incredible amounts of shame and guilt, but later actually go to them and say, how could I have helped you differently in that moment? What can we do for next time? Can we put on your favorite album during the cooking and you really try not to leave the kitchen until the album's done? So what's that, 45 minutes? Can we put on a show in the background and it's kind of a way of holding you accountable to the room? Finding other ways that they might think of. Often they know how to solve their own problems. You've just got to kind of bring it up, not in the moment. Okay, last question for the day. Wondering if you have any tips for incorporating these into kids' morning routine when the time urgency doesn't seem to help. How do we incorporate various tools into a toolbox to not exhaust the dopamine? Yes. I would say, first of all, if you're going to be late, you're going to be late, and then you're late, and it's okay. It's okay to be late. Like sometimes we just need to make a little bit of time in life when we don't get places on time because kids just take longer. And some days they just take longer. And I'm sure you know that, and that's really unhelpful of me to say, but it's true that sometimes we have these periods, seasons really of life where we might actually just be a bit late every day, or like knowing the fluctuating capacity, honoring those days when like things fluctuate. Let me have a think. Incorporating into the kids' morning routine. Yeah, because they don't really care about getting there on time. Why would you care about getting to school on time? So time urgency doesn't seem to help totally. And you're there going, come on, we've got to get in the car. So I wonder, actually, this is my answer. Make it attachment based. So figure out what their routine is with them, collaborate, make it visual, get them a visual timer or a time timer. So that it's scaffolded as much as it can be, but make it super attachment based where you're checking in every now and then and you are doing your secret handshake before they brush their teeth, and you are like singing a song on the transition out to breakfast. And I think like you've got to kind of pivot your thinking going from we've got to get this done because it doesn't help, and especially if they're PDAs or autistic, it just makes it worse. And make sure the connection is there, because I think that's going to be a really big thing for their levels of shame, their self-esteem, their confidence. Like think about what you really, really care about here. It's not getting to school on time. It's that you're growing these beautiful, thriving kids. So, okay, that's part of it. And then what else would I say? Yeah, make it visual. I can't think of anything else in the moment other than really trying to make sure the attachment is there. Do things in a fun way. Like remember those very quick pinch and ink up, the things I went through first. Maybe you could actually go through those with your child and say, how can we make the morning more fun, playful, competition-y, challenge-y? Incorporate that a little bit in there as well, because yes, you saying we've got to get in the car, it doesn't mean a thing. I think that's my best answer at this time of night. All right, everyone, thank you so much. You are brilliant. Thank you. And if you're interested in more, please pre-order our executive functioning booklet, and we will catch you on the flip side. I'm going to stop sharing and end it now. All right. Good night.